Howdy. So today and for the next few days we're working on a 2016 Dodge Challenger, and we are putting a carbon fiber roof on it. I didn't want to bore you with all this work, but this is what we got to do, is find all our spot welds, which I've located all of them. That's the front, and it is a sunroof car. This is the back. Just go in there and locate all your spot welds for now by getting the paint and the urethane off of it. And then under here, because it is a sunroof car, you got to come in here and take out some spot welds there for the sunroof reinforcement. There's none back there, which is great. So that's what we'll be doing. Getting our spot welds out so that we can get this metal roof off and turn it into that. It's nothing but carbon fiber. So once I've located all the spot welds, I drill myself a pilot hole in the center of each spot weld so that I can use this type of bit, which all it does is take the metal out of the roof. It doesn't cut out any more than that. And this is the type of bit that it is. They're Blair's, if I can find it here. So that little pilot hole that I drilled is for this type of bit. Can't seem to get it focused. These are it, basically. Blair's rotabroach cutter. That's what I prefer. Now, I know I didn't show it in the locating of the spot welds, but there's also spot welds in the center here where the roof meets the side panel all the way down underneath the molding. Locate those. So I figured out that these are not actually welded on the inside here. That spot weld is for the plate that has the nuts in it. So that's just glued to that frame. So all you have to do is just chisel that out, and I'll be showing you that in a minute. So you don't have to cut it. You don't have to cut any spot welds here. It's inside the roof. So now that all the spot welds are cut out, now I'm going to separate the roof from the vehicle so they will no longer be together. So now I'll be separating the roof. And I like to use a small chisel and work it by hand, because it just causes less damage to the rest of the structure that we don't want to damage. And it's just a much cleaner way to get this roof separated. So all I did was wedge it between the roof and the structure here, the inner structure, and just tapped it all the way down with a hammer just to separate those two. Now I'll be going down the side here, coming from the inside and releasing it. I'll be coming on the inside here, releasing this panel from our side panel. Sorry for the camera work. Now you'll want to take the same chisel and come up in here where that roof meets the side panel, right here, and just tap that in there to separate the roof from the side panel, right there. So this is what's needed on the inside to get the frame for the sunroof off of this area, which is just glued. Just take your spreader, put it in the very top, very bottom of this, brace, and that's where you want to chop that glue out. Between there. I hope you were able to see that pop right out of there. I've already done this one in the center. See how loose that is now? The roof is ready to come out. So now I'm going to work on the reinforcements. You can see that glue that's up in there. And back here, the glue that's in there. Just going to heat it up from the outside. And with a little bit of pressure, just heat it up real good and pull the roof panel off of there. So now we want to separate the outer roof panel from those inner reinforcements, bow ties, or whichever you want to call them. So the way we're going to do that is there's glue here, as I showed you. So we'll just heat that up. Get it nice and hot. And just peel that off of that truss metal. We're really doing this for two reasons: to save the outer roof, which we're trying to do. But even if you're not saving the outer roof, you want to do it this way so that you don't pull up on that reinforcement. And then it's going to be up too high when you go to put your carbon fiber roof on. In other words, you're going to end up bending that crossmember that's under here with that glue, unless you heat it up. just giving steady pressure to it. Not too hard, because you'll buckle it like that. So I need a bit more heat on this side. As you can see how strong those glues are, so if you don't get it heated up and you just yank on it, you're going to be bending that bow tie. And you really don't want to do that. Because it will give your carbon fiber a hard time fitting. Nobody wants that. Now as you're pulling it up and it's indenting, that's exactly where it's still glued, so that's where you want to heat it. Right here is where it has indented. So I'm going to go ahead and heat that up really quick, right in that spot. There you go. That's that side. Now we just crawl over to the other side and start doing that one. So I've determined that the glue is right here on this indent, so that's where I'm going to be heating it up at. I'm going to crawl through the inside. It's really comfortable. And that's the best place to grab the roof at. Once you get it all heated up, and that's usually the way it is, once you get it all heated up. Also, as you're heating up, like I'm doing, don't stay in one place because you'll burn the paint. And it really doesn't do you any good if you just stay in one spot. You gotta keep it moving. Check it every once in a while, see how hot it is. And once it's hot enough to barely touch it, that should be good right there. And again, you want to heat this up so you're not pulling on that inner reinforcement and bending it. You want that reinforcement to be exactly where it's at, not any higher. You yank up on this and that glue is still attached. 9 times out of 10 you'll bend that little lip that that glue is attached to. You'll be crying. Pull it up real slow, steady pressure. The glue runs this way and it comes down a little bit. So you got to heat up this whole corner. I've already got this corner loosened up, rope free from the glue. Now I've just got to go gradually that way. But this glue seems to be a little stronger than the one in the front, so you just gotta have to get your roof hotter to separate that. If you're not worried about damaging the roof, just take a rosebud. It gets it hot really quick. A rosebud on the oxygen acetylene torches. And heat up this whole area. Just keep that rosebud moving so you don't burn the whole garage down. Somebody down there at Dodge got happy with the glue gun back here. Whew. I want to reiterate that even if you're not saving the roof, you still want to take it off gingerly like this so that you don't bend those bow ties. glue is really stubborn back here. Again, I want to remind you, this is a difficult step. I'm not trying to, even if I wasn't trying to save the roof, I'd still be doing this process. I'd still be doing this step. You don't want to pull up those reinforcements, bow ties. You don't want to pull those up. You gotta separate that glue while it's hot. So I've used the rosebud on the oxygen settling torches before to remove a roof. I think it was off a Conaline van or something like that, where the bow ties were just like 7 to 10 of them all glued to the roof. So I got that rosebud out, heated it up real quick. Pop that roof right off of there. Is once you get that unglued, entire roof, sunroof, opening and everything. Okay, roof is off. Just want to kind of give you a close-up of what it looks like when the roof is off. They do glue it a little bit, which I, expected. They glue as well as the spot welds where the roof meets the side rail. I don't know why this was so difficult. I just couldn't get it hot enough. It's a different type of glue or something, so it's got to be really hot to separate that without bending it. See, I don't know if you can see that, how easy this is to bend. That's why you want to heat it up. This one not so much. I don't think you'd bend that here in the front. So now we're gonna get it prepped for the carbon fiber roof, and no doubt going to add a bow tie here in the center, because there is nothing, as you can see. There's nothing from the front to the back. So, alrighty. So I'm doing a dry fit of the carbon fiber roof on the actual vehicle. And what I'm going to do also, because I've noticed that since it's been on there for about half an hour, it's starting to fit better. Because I know when I first put it on, it was really high right here. And now it's kind of calmed itself down. So I'm going to leave it there overnight. Let it conform to where it's eventually going to be sitting anyway. And I know in Texas, where I'm from, it probably wouldn't take very long for this thing to conform to the vehicle. So I'm going to let it sit, maybe overnight, maybe the next day, just to help it to conform to where it's going to rest in its final resting place. Isn't editing wonderful? It's the following day, and it's wet and cold. So I'm gonna let the roof sit there about another day or so. But for now, we're going to check and see if 8115 works on bonding the carbon fiber to the metal. They seem to recommend for carbon fiber and metal DP420, which I can't get a hold of. So I'm gonna cut this piece off and glue it to the roof I took off and see what it takes to get it off, to kind of test and see if 8115 will work with this carbon fiber. So while we're waiting for the 8115 to dry on our sample tabs here, I wanted to point out a few things I like about this carbon fiber roof. It's made by Anderson, boy, I had it a minute ago, but I'll verify it later on. But things I like about it is it's very tight. It's formed very well to the shape of the vehicle. You can see it's not all wavy. It's a nice straight line all the way back. It follows the contour of this part of the roof, which is perfect. And here, same thing. There's very little gap for the majority of that roof. So that's sitting very, very flat onto that frame, which is perfect. Again, here it's nice because it's a nice straight line. It rises a little back here, but I think it does that also from the factory. So it's nice and consistent. It's not all wavy. And the same thing in the rear. Very little gap between the frame and that roof, all the way across. That's perfect. Like it. So those are some things I like about this Anderson carbon fiber roof. And as we go to glue it, we'll see what other kind of things I may like about it, or dislike. So I also wanted to show you this side. It's very similar to the other. It sits quite flat. Got the same situation here. It's good and flat. Very consistent. Also, It's Anderson Composites out of California. Anderson Composites. They did an excellent job. So after your glass is out and before you take off your factory roof, take a measurement from the bottom of this window opening on the inside, right on that edge, and come up to here to this very edge here, the very corner of the factory roof. And you want the measurement from this area here down to this area, so that when you put the carbon fiber roof on there, you can at least know what this measurement is to make sure that you have enough between here and the bottom of the glass. Now this one's a little adjustable, but some vehicles, it needs to be on the money. So this is how you do that. Again, measure from this edge here up to the very top corner, getting that distance there. And doing that before you remove your factory roof. Now, I wonder if these Anderson composite roofs are made well enough where you can use that alignment hole that is on the vehicle. So I'll show you how to save that. So these alignment tabs that are on the factory roof, you can probably use them, but even if I do use them, it would be to get in the ballpark. And then with my measurements, I would verify that you can actually use these alignment holes that are on the carbon fiber roof, but leave this on the vehicle so that you can just line them up with the carbon fiber. So the way you do that is, instead of drilling out this spot weld, you'd want to leave that one there. Take your cutting wheel and just go up here and cut it down. That way you're leaving this attached to the vehicle with this spot weld. You want to do that on all four corners. So up here in the front, the way you'd want to measure, again, this is after the glass is out and before you take off your factory roof. Before you take off your factory roof. Take your measurement, again, from this very top corner here, that very top edge, and you want to come down to something that you know is going to be on the other side as well and in the exact same spot, because this panel runs consistent all the way to the top. So when it's set here, it's set at the top as well. So use that as your measuring stick for both sides. Start here and measure up to that top corner, that top edge. And write the numbers down somewhere so that when you go to put your carbon fiber on, you just look at those numbers and make sure that they're within at least a millimeter or two. Again, you're going to have to compare once you get the numbers the same as what it was before you took the roof off on your measurements. Make sure that in the back, your measurements that you have are within at least a millimeter or two. Because again, you can have a little wider opening, that's okay, but if it's a more narrow opening, then you may not have enough room for the glass. And that's mostly true with your back glass usually, because the front, you got a little bit of leeway down here at the bottom of the cowl where you can adjust it. So if you would like to make your life just a tiny bit easier, Try to learn the metric tape. When in the car industry, when we had to get the car within 1 to 2 millimeters, I began to learn how to read a metric tape, and it's so much easier. Instead of sitting here trying to count all these tiny little lines and then figure out, okay, I'm at quarter, or am I, okay, there's half. This is all spelled out for you. Metric is 110, 105, 135. It's that easy. And if it's anything in between there, 132 of these lines. So it'd be 132. Then you move on, same thing, 225, let's say. Whereas if you were on this other one, I mean, you're trying to find these little, okay, I think that's 8, and then there's the quarter, and then there's all these tiny little 3/16. I mean, it's, so make your life easy and try to learn metric. 222. It's that easy. Okay, and the other thing is on here, how I'm getting it centered between the two A-pillars is just with the gasket. Make sure the gasket fits the same on both sides, which is what I've done on this one. Make sure it sits in that groove the same way the other one does, which it does. And that'll get it centered. And that's for front and rear corners. So you want to line it with the molding. So now that we've got our measurements from side to side with our molding, and front to back by measuring from here down to the bottom of the pillar. Now that we've done that, now we have to make sure of the level, how high this roof is in comparison to this bottom lip. So the way we do that is just try to make sure that this gap is as small as possible. The end of this piece of carbon fiber was up in the air more. It kind of curved up. So I thought, well, maybe it could be heated up. And sure enough, I was able to heat up this area with a pretty good heat gun. And then with my thick gloves on, slowly pulled this lip down way beyond level so that it would spring back up, and it has stayed that way. So you can heat it up and bend it just a little bit, but it does distort the carbon fiber, so you want to probably do it in an area that's not seen if you're going to leave your carbon showing. So we'll get on to the leveling of the roof. Now in this particular one, there is in the center, it's a little high. The reason I say that is when you push on this, you can see that side over there moving up. So it's pivoting somewhere around about here. So either this lip here is higher than the rest, than the outer edges, or my thought is that it's the glue on that upper tie bar. So I'll get in there and take that glue out in the area where I think it's high and see if we can't get this to sit mostly by itself. See how we've got that big old gap when it's sitting there by itself? Well, we want a gap like that when it's sitting there by itself without any pressure on it. See, I'm putting pressure on it. And same with the back. On that other side here, this area here is up higher on the other side. but I think it's because of the glue in this area. The glue in this area has that roof up higher, and that's why this won't come down. Leave as much of that glue as you can on those tie bars, bow ties, reinforcements. Leave as much of that glue as you can because it is made for that particular area. And all you have to do is glue what's left of the glue to the new carbon fiber, and it'll be perfect because it's the right type of glue already there. You're just adding something to be able to grab onto that glue. So again, on the other side, to level it out on that back side, again, I'm going to do the same as I did to the front and just take out some of that glue until this is able to stay down by itself without me having to put pressure on it. Because if this area here is too high, it's not going to allow this to go down. So that's what I'm going to be doing there. So I want to leave a lot of this glue here because it has the right sponginess, softness, so that wherever this is in correspondence to the roof, if this is too hard of a material, you're going to have it's going to develop a bump. When the sun hits it and heats this up, if this is too hard or too much pressure on it, it's going to develop a bump. So that's why you want to leave as much of this on there as you can. Just shave it down, shape it if you need to. So I'm sanding this with a 36 disc, and I'm going across it with very light pressure. I'm just slowly taking it down. But remember, I want to leave some of this here. So I just want to take out whatever I need. That's it.
Really accurate, good one.
So basically this is the reason for all this mayhem, is the vehicle is going on a diet. We're trying to lose weight. So this is how much the roof weighs. And again, this is a sunroof type roof. This is how much weight we're able to decrease. £30, 31. So again, that's the reason for this mayhem. We're also going to weigh the sunroof mechanism because it's quite heavy as well. So now we're going to weigh the sunroof mechanism. £27, 26, 27.
Off from
We're trying this one more time.
You gotta be over there. You're not gonna be able to see the keyboard when I put the door on here, and I gotta be right here. The door's heavy. We're gonna drop it. This scale will never work.
£50. And that is an empty door. No glass, no trim panel. So we could probably add another 10 pounds, I'm sure.
It's on your legs, Steve.
About 41.
Yeah, it's 41, but it's sliding off of the pad.
About 41, 42. So now we're going to check our test glue, which is 8115. It's been on there for 24 hours. And this is you and I both seeing the same thing. Put it all the way up here. And now pry on it. As hard as you can till it breaks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been in the metal.
So it's not gonna break?
Nope.
You want me to break it off or no?
Yeah, that's what it, yeah. That's what we, but get it further out on it. Yeah, right there. Yeah, it's just been in the middle.
Yeah, it's not coming off.
Nope.
I don't want to damage this. There's still value there.
I wanted to take it and kind of go over this Anderson Composites because they are truly impressive. As you know, just putting a factory piece on this front bumper, it's an absolute nightmare. And if it's aftermarket, gaps will be all horrible. But this is really nice all the way around. Snaps in really nice. And then on the back here, we did the same. Anderson Composites. And the same situation. Here we have the rear bumper, which that's an absolute murder to get snapped in properly. And yet all the lines look beautiful, really tight. And this is what impresses me the most, is every single one of these holes lined up absolutely perfectly. That's just unheard of. That's without adjusting it. We just slapped it on there, snapped it on, and there it is. Just absolutely amazing. So it's very good quality stuff. Anderson Composites. Good stuff. So now we've just installed the trunk lid. Again, this is Anderson Composites. Absolutely beautiful line. But you gotta adjust here and there. We gotta put a washer back here to bring it up to the top of the quarter. But the line is absolutely beautiful. It fits well at the back. Both sides. Very nice lines. With very little adjustment, really. Again, it's Anderson Composites. Just another item on the vehicle. Okay, so the roof has been on here for about 3 days now. We're doing other things, so we let it sit. It kind of helps conform it to the car as well, but not necessary. So where we're at is it's centered, and it's centered this way, and it's back and forth measured. We put the glass on, front and rear, lined it up, taped it to hold it. Now we've got 4 alignment holes, one on each corner. And then, so this is 1/8 inch. So then you take your next larger size drill bit and drill this hole larger than the 1/8 inch. So it has a little bit of room for movement so it doesn't crack. So that's what we'll be doing next. Getting the roof off, getting it cleaned up. Bottom of this, the top of the roof joist. And I'll show you the seam sealer we use to make this permanent. So now I'm preparing the roof to be glued. And what I'm doing it with is a DA orbital sander. Because you don't want to grind this where it's going to glue. You don't want to grind it because you'll take too much material off. The 8115 glue will stick to this without even sanding it. So imagine how much better it'll stick when you do sand it. So that's why I do that. Plus it makes the surface more even for the glue to stick better. Yeah, you just sand these edges that are going to be contacting the metal roof. And of course the carbon fiber is not flat, so you'll have grooves in it. It's really not mandatory to get all the shine off, but I try to get as much of that shine off as I can. And I'm using 80 grit. This is 60, but you can use 80 grit. 60 or 80 grit is fine. And again, I'll be doing this all the way around the surface that meets the metal to sand it down, get it ready to be glued. See, you don't have to worry about every element of shine. Just sand it a little bit just to say you have. It evens out the gluing surface. Also, it's best to use a DA because it leaves a circular pattern of sanding in this area, whereas if you just sanded it by hand, you just have straight lines. Whereas with the DA, it puts circular, different opposing patterns into it, and it makes the glue stick better. So it's better to DA it than sand it by hand for that reason. So generally I'll blow all that dust off and generally use wax and grease remover in this area. Clean that up. Okay, so now I just wanted to reiterate these alignment rivets that I'm going to be putting in. The original drill bit was this one, 1/8 inch. That's what I went through this carbon fiber roof as well as the roof on the vehicle to put an 1/8 inch rivet. And then this hole is done with this one, which I think is a 3/16. I meant to check. But you can see the difference. You want a little bit of play, a little bit of slack for the thermal temperature differences so it doesn't crack. So that's that. And it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but not too much for when you go to align it. Basically, those are to align the roof and make sure you get exactly where you measured it to be when you had the glass in. So here on the roof itself, we've ground all the E-coat off. There is a little bit of 8115 as well, or panel bonding adhesive, whatever they use. So you want to get that ground off flatter so your roof will sit down nice and flat. So do that all the way around, both sides there in the back. What I do is I get all the E-coat and the other seam sealers and things out of there. And then I'll take a brand new one and just go over the whole thing just to make it nice, sharp, clean. Again, this is another reason why all you want to do when you're taking this roof off is just get your spot welds out. That's it. You don't need to come in here and cut this, because you think the seam sealer is going to hold it in there. When you go to put your new roof on, you can actually use these as a guide. That's why I leave them there. And it's a way to stay off of this paint when you're cleaning this surface for the glue. Because this is going to be a paintless procedure. There won't be any need to paint whatsoever. I just want to mention one more thing. When you're grinding this, cleaning this up, I don't know if I mentioned I use 24 grit, those little 3M 2-inch grinding discs. But don't grind off that little raised area here, because it gives you the opportunity for the roof to sit on top of that little spot and have glue, fairly thick glue right here. So the thicker the glue, the stronger it's going to be. So don't grind these flat. Now we want to put the glue on the carbon fiber and on the vehicle itself. Once you get this glue on here, that hole is going to disappear. So there's a way to keep yourself in alignment with that, but it's going to be hard to find that hole for a little bit. So get the glue on the roof and then spread it out, because you don't want to leave any air pockets in there. That's the best way for it to adhere. Even if there's a little bit of dust on the surface, you're basically cleaning that off by doing that right there. All right, so this is where the helper might help, because you put the bead down and then the person behind you comes in there and spreads it out. And you want about, I'd say, 1/16 of an inch worth of glue on this panel. That's why this is as thick as it is, because you just want to push it down, move it around, trying to keep it flat. And of course, just do that all the way around. Okay, let's go to the vehicle now. So you want all of your bare metal to be covered with this 8115 glue. It's a panel bonding adhesive. Now, what I was going to mention about these holes, you're not going to be able to see these either. So that's why it's good that you leave the original line where the original roof ended on there, because then you can get within a few millimeters in order to reach that hole. So another good reason to don't clean all this stuff out of here. Just let the roof come off and it will cut it. And use that as your border. So same thing here as we did with the carbon fiber part. Get yourself some on there and spread it around. And make sure you cover all of the bare metal and all the way up to that line there for where the seam sealer ended on the original roof. Okay, one thing that you do differently for this on the car itself is after you've spread this out nice and flat, then you put like say a 1/4 inch thick bead like that all the way around the whole roof. That guarantees that you'll get enough glue between the two, between what's on the carbon fiber roof and here, but not too much, because you don't want it oozing all over the place and making a mess. All right, so I'll do this all the way around, get it completely, all the bare metal covered with the 8115, and then put that small bead. And we'll go on to what's required here and when to put that when we get to that. Okay.
Time.
So this is our quarter bead that we got around it. Got it all slopped on there, and then you put your bead all the way around. And now is when you want to do this part, the seam sealer part. And anytime you're using seam sealer, especially on automotive, cut your tip on an angle, because then you set it down flat, you can get a very nice bead. Instead of it flowing all over the place, you can set this down flat on the surface, squeeze it a little bit, and make a perfect bead without even having to touch it. So always cut it on a, I guess a 45 or whatever that is. Okay, so where this foam is where you want to put the seam sealer. The reason I'm using seam sealer is it's kind of rubbery. It gives a little. And I know it's going to stick to this foam spray that they have here. It's like a type of expanding foam. And I know that it's going to stick to the carbon fiber. So get you a good bead of it there. So do that on the front and the back. And this bow tie here, if we'd have known we can order it, which you can, we would have ordered it maybe a couple weeks ago. But you can get that bow tie. I'm not worried about it right now because we can always slide it in underneath. So again, you only want the seam sealer up here on these bow ties to attach the glue to it. A good auto body grade seam sealer will work. Again, the best way is to leave a bead up there so that it, you know, you got plenty. Doesn't have to be pretty. And so now we're ready to put the roof on. So when it comes to the rivets now, again, this hole in the vehicle is an 1/8 inch hole for this 1/8 inch rivet. The hole outside of this rivet on the carbon fiber was a different size to give it a little bit of wiggle room. You also, with that in mind, don't want to push the rivet all the way down into the carbon fiber, because then it's just not going to have enough room to move. So you try to pick the rivet up off the surface of the carbon fiber and then squeeze the trigger. That decreases the amount of pressure that it's going to put on the roof, because you just want a pin to hold it. That's all it's for, just to hold it in place while it dries. These are absolutely crucial to get that roof exactly where it was when you measured it. This is crucial. Once you get this one in, all the rest of them line up really easy. And you'll have the peace of mind knowing that this roof is exactly where it needs to be because of those holes that we drilled prior. So the rest is to put vice grips like these that don't put solid pressure on it, but it's broken up here. And you want to put it this way to try to push that down. And you don't need to be extremely tight on it. Because again, a little bit of that glue in there is going to make this joint stronger. So you put it wherever you can see that it's not flat on top of the vehicle's surface. So that looks good in the middle. I'll probably need one over there, another one here. So that's what you want to look for, is it's flat on the roof of the car. We'll do the same thing to the back. Another consideration is look on the side here. Because if I'm not mistaken, we've got to put weight right here because it's one little flaw right there, either in the car or whichever. But we just put some weight up here that'll hold it down so that we don't lose this relationship. And that's the only thing that we've got to overcome. The rest is all just fit nice lines. So if this is all I have to deal with, that's perfect. Perfect. All right.
Done.
So I wanted to show you also the way to get the height that you need. See how that's up in the air? You got this gap here. So just take your clamp and adjust it to where it goes not all the way. You don't want it to be super tight because you want a little bit of that 8115 glue in there, so you don't want it all the way against the surface. And you just adjust the amount of tension that's on your vice grip. Once it gets to where you like it, that's where it'll keep it. See how that's squished out real nice? Oh, that's beautiful. All right, so the other thing you want to do when you come up here is if you see that there's not quite enough, just take a very small bead of it right there. And if you need to, just mask it off so you get a nice clean line out of that, and then the molding will cover the rest. You won't have to paint or do nothing. This can come off with Acrosol or whatever you got. The other thing I wanted to point out is on this roof, the way to know if you're good here is to just press on it. See, that's not moving, so you're good and solid on the roof surface. So if you look here, see how I was able to press that down? So you're not sitting flat on this part of the vehicle. So just have the solution for that. It's a little heavy, but that's what you need. Just put some weight right here until you can see that it doesn't move anymore. If this is heavy enough, this won't move anymore. If this still moves after you put weight on there, that means it's not all the way down. Kind of makes sense, right? So that was perfect. So then you want to, of course, go to the other side and do the same thing. Push down on this. You're pushing down on your carbon fiber to make sure it doesn't move, to make sure it's sitting flat on this side rail. And again, on each one of your corners, just adjust your vice grip to the pressure that you want, because this one also sticks up in the air. But I don't want it really tight on the surface, so it just barely clamps onto it. And I'm watching up here also to make sure this section is going down, because that's the goal there. And again, just check and make sure this is flat against the frame of the car. No gap in there. And let her dry. So here we are the next day, and it's relatively cured. It's been in the 40s over here, so I'm gonna let it cure another 10 hours about. So that's about 30 hours or so. I want to make sure it's cured, so I'll leave the clamps on. Also wanted to mention, we're going to be putting the headliner back in it. So to kind of back up a little bit, once you get your glass out, your windshield and your back glass, that headliner will come out straight out through the windshield opening. So once you get your windshield off, that's when you want to get your headliner down and off, so you don't have to bend it and put creases in it. All right, so The only thing that I found with this is here where it meets the top of the roof. I needed to put weight up here in order to hold it down. So the way you tell if it needs to be held down is if once you get your glue on there and it's been sitting for a while, and you come over here and you press on it and it pushes down, that means that needs to have weight put on it. So once you put the weight on it, this is 25 pounds, believe it or not. Once you put your weight on it and then walk away for 5 minutes, and if you come back and you can still push down on the roof, that means you need to add more weight because it's not pushing it all the way down. So that was sufficient for that spot. Here we have a couple of books and then some weights on top to weight this down. And again, same procedure. Once you put the weight on there, wait about 5 minutes and come over here and push down on this to see if it doesn't push down more. If it pushes down more, that means you need more weight. So again, I'll be leaving those weights on there till tomorrow, another 30 hours, along with all the clamps. And I wanted to point out too, here, if you do it right, you just put a nice bead of the 8115 right in there where you can see this roof ends and it matches up against the old seam sealer. Just fill that in really nice with 8115. Because then when you go to put your molding on in there, the molding is going to lay down nice and straight. No painting needed. All that is covered up by the molding. As long as you keep your glue like that, very thin. Just fill in that little gap between the roof and the old seam sealer. One thing definitely worth mentioning is make sure the vehicle is on its suspension. Make sure the wheels are on the ground, so to speak, so it's sitting on its suspension, because you don't want any kind of twists or stress in the upper roof area by it being on a jack stand or just a slight twist in it, because you definitely don't want to glue your roof on there with any kind of stress or twist in that roof area. So be sure that it's sitting on its suspension. I actually had to set this one on its suspension, so. Alrighty. And this is on the inside. Here, this is all nice, no scratches. But I wanted to point out that seam sealer that we put in there. See how the foam from the original roof is there, and the seam sealer is there also, and they're both touching. You want to definitely take up that space. That's why you don't want to lose too much of that glue from the factory, because it makes it real easy to lay it back in there and get just a little bit of seam sealer on it and you're done. Same thing back here. See, if you just take some of that glue off, it makes just enough room to put you some seam sealer in there so it's held. This bow tie, you can buy it. When I get a part number, I'll put that in the video as well. We had to buy one, of course, for a non-sunroof vehicle. And I'm hoping that it's just going to bolt in right here. If not, we may have to cut it short, put it in there. This carbon fiber is pretty sturdy, but some of them can go, 200 more miles an hour, and I imagine this roof would probably start flopping without that reinforcement there. So we're gonna get it, put it on there. I'll show it in a later video. Happy trails. So now we'll put our headliner in, get that installed, and then we'll get the windshield in so we don't damage the headliner trying to put it in. These Anderson composite roofs are so nice that if you wanted to, you could sand this with probably 400 to 320 DA, prime it, block it, paint it the same color as the car, and no one would ever know that that's a carbon fiber roof. They are that nice. Nice straight lines. This really wasn't going to be a video about Anderson composite products, but wow, I'm so impressed with them. I just can't keep my mouth shut. This is a door. Fits really nice on the fender. Fits really nice at the quarter. Nice body line. And even here, can't really see it because of that wrap that's on there, but it fits up against the quarter really nice. Top, bottom, the line itself, the deck lid, same thing. Really nice. Follows that quarter very nicely. Back here, same thing. The length is right. The width is beautiful, both sides. Just unreal. The quality. Very nice. We also did the rear bumper. Bezel, if you call it. It's a surround that goes around the taillights. That looks beautiful as well. Fit very nicely. And actually stayed on without popping off. This is the front bumper. Same thing, we did the grille surround in Anderson, and it fits just beautiful. Now from the factory put glue on these clips, as you can see. They put drip glue on it right there to keep that clip from coming apart. So that's exactly what I did with the Anderson composite as well. Is just put glue on those bottom clips. There's two of them there. I don't know if you can see that one very well. But just surround it with glue. The 8115, both sides. Those two in particular. What I did to hold it is just taped it under here. Taped it to the bumper itself so it would stay in its position. And it turned out very nice. Very nice line right there. Both sides, the way it fit. The fitment is amazing. Another thing I need to mention is when you go to put your weight on this section of the roof to hold it down, don't get too far out here, because if you put a dimple in the roof like that, in this area, then it's going to stay that way because you pushed it down too far. So don't get your weight too far out towards the middle on these bow ties because it'll distort it. Also, I got the part number for that bow tie that runs there in the center. The part number is 68159990 Apple Apple. Again, that's 68159990 Apple Apple is that center tie bar that we need. So with all these composite parts, we shaved off about 140 pounds from this Challenger. Happy trails. The first person to guess the year, make, and model of this old timer, I'll send him $100. First person to guess the year, make, and model, send them $100. Just ignore the chop.